Chapter 14, Breaking the Carbon Bonds, USA, 2052. It was a Saturday morning. Adam sat up in bed, the soft light filtering through the net curtains of the flat he shared with Sophia. Sleep clung to him, his limbs heavy, his eyes gritty. He rubbed at them, trying to coax himself awake. From the kitchen came the sharp clatter of pans and the crash of cutlery, an unmistakable symphony of irritation. Sophia was washing up, and she wasn't happy about it. The sounds grated on Adam's ears, a harsh reminder of the argument that had been brewing for days. Sophia's frustration was palpable, each bang and clang a wordless accusation. You didn't clean up after yourself again. With a resigned sigh, Adam swung his legs over the side of the bed and called out, "What is it now?" "Nothing," Sophia replied, her tone brittle, a poorly veiled prelude to the storm. Moments later, the dam broke. "Is it really that hard to clean up after yourself? Put your clothes in the wash basket, your toothbrush back in the holder?" Adam rolled his eyes. "Oh, here we go. You nag a lot, you know that?" His voice rose, just shy of a shout. Sophia wasn't one to back down. If you'd just do things properly and tidy up, there wouldn't be any need to nag. Her voice matched his now, tension crackling between them like a live wire. Adam shot back, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "Oh, right, like squeezing the toothpaste tube the wrong way. All these years, and I never knew I was doing it wrong until I moved in with you." Silence followed, heavy and suffocating. Adam glanced down, his anger fading into something colder, more final. He realized, with a pang of clarity, that their personal relationship had likely run its course. But there was still the work, the robots. That was the real priority. That was what still bound them. For now, he kept those thoughts to himself, retreating inward while Sophia banged another pan onto the drying rack. The morning dragged on, and the quiet between them was anything but peaceful. Later, they agreed reluctantly that they should try to mend the cracks in their relationship, if only for the sake of their research. Unbeknownst to each other, both valued their scientific partnership far more than the romantic one. Their relationship was like a car speeding down the road with loose bolts functional, but one bump away from a breakdown. So they decided to grab food and drinks, hoping to ease the tension. Sophia squeezed into a pair of tight jeans, scrutinizing her figure in the bedroom mirror. She focused on her backside, a silent judgment settling on its perceived inadequacies. Adam, oblivious to her internal struggle, saw an opportunity for reconciliation. He still found Sophia attractive, a natural beauty, untouched by a surgeon's scalpel or tweaked in a genetics lab. "You've got a great figure, Sophia," he offered, smiling. "Curvy, proportionate." Sophia grimaced. "It's my legs, Adam. They're too short for my bum." She sighed, massaged her temples, and crossed the room to the kitchen. 2 painkillers disappeared down her throat, chased by a gulp of water. The frequency of her self-medicating had increased lately. Stress, she reasoned. From their deteriorating relationship and the weight of their research. At the Blissful Earth Cafe, Adam grabbed a table while Sophia stood in line, ordering a veggie burger and fries for herself and a lab-grown meat alternative for him. His gaze drifted towards Sophia, then to the young woman behind the counter, Eli. She had cascading blonde curls, fair skin, and striking green eyes. The easy rapport between the two women was evident, even to Adam's untrained eye. A flicker of hope sparked in him. Maybe Sophia would fall for her. It could be a natural, clean break, a long-overdue escape from a romance that had soured. As long as their research partnership remained intact, that was all that really mattered. As Sophia chatted easily with Eli, Adam's mind wandered somewhere it shouldn't. He pictured the 3 of them together, him, Sophia, and Eli, an impossible fantasy. Lost in the thought, he didn't notice Sophia taking the seat across from him. "Adam," she began, her voice measured, tinged with the weight of finality, "we need to talk." A silent cheer rose inside him, quickly masked by a carefully constructed look of concern. "Of course, Sophia," he said, leaning in. "What's up?" "I don't think the romantic part of our relationship is working anymore," she said gently. "But I'd still like us to keep working together, finish the project, and start a company after graduation. I was thinking New York." Relief washed over Adam. A wide grin spread across his face. "That's fantastic!" Sophia blinked. "You're not upset?" "Upset? Why would I be? He asked, feigning confusion. But hasn't any of it meant something to you? She pressed, a flicker of hurt in her voice. Of course it has, he lied smoothly. But, men are from Mars, women are from Venus. We just express it differently. It'll probably hit me later, he added with a smile. Sophia snorted. Really? She muttered, as Eli arrived with their meals. Sophia and Eli exchanged a glance, something unspoken passing between them. Adam reached across the table, gently squeezing Sophia's hand to break the moment. Friends and business partners, then? He offered, smiling. Sophia returned the gesture with a small nod. As Adam bit into his burger, he remembered another cafe near campus, another waitress who had once caught his eye. After dinner, Adam made his excuses to leave. Sophia stayed behind, claiming she wanted dessert, a flimsy pretense to keep talking to Eli. Both women knew it, and neither seemed to mind playing the game. The streets were quiet as Adam walked back to their flat, the night air sharp and bracing. He turned up the collar of his coat against the cold. Autonomous taxis hummed past, yet even the gentle rhythm of the city couldn't drown out the thought that plagued his mind. Biological brains, biochemistry. It was all so unpredictable. Just last year, he and Sophia had been in love. Now look at them, snapping at each other over toothpaste and dishes. Humans were slaves to emotion, prisoners of their own chemistry. Would fusing digital minds with human ones really make the world better? Or was pure AI more predictable, rational, safe? But combining it with human impulse, emotion, anger, desire could be more dangerous, a volatile mix. A part of him began to doubt the project, but he pushed the thought aside. This was never about building a smarter machine or creating a brave new world. It was about building a kinder one. No, they had invested too much in the idea they had to press on with the project. Take the risk, she was right. It was a thought a human might arrive at, but perhaps not an AI. Chapter 15. You're So Predictable. Aberdeen, 2052. Ethan sat in his headquarters in Aberdeen, the Granite City. The HQ, a two-story marvel of nanoglass and steel, sprawled across 2 acres of rolling countryside, just outside the bustling urban centre. Powered by wind and solar energy, with a fusion reactor standing by as backup, it was the pinnacle of eco-friendly engineering, a testament to progress and self-sufficiency. At the heart of the building, accessible only through biometric locks and a labyrinth of sterile corridors, was the Predictive Behavioral Analysis Room. Pristine white walls absorbed the sterile glow of recessed lighting. The room was barren, save for a single chair in the center, where Ethan sat, commanding the space like a modern-day monarch. Opposite him, arranged in a semicircle, were 30 humanoid robots, each representing a prominent world leader, democratically elected presidents, iron-fisted dictators, and everything in between. Motionless and deactivated, they sat dressed in identical jumpsuits, distinguished only by nameplates and the flags of their respective nations stitched over their chests. 2 worker bots were busy completing the latest addition to the assembly, the robotic proxy of the newly elected UK Prime Minister, Fred Blunt. They adjusted his facial prosthetics, molding them into a perfect replica of Blunt's features, while algorithms that mimicked his personality gleaned from media appearances, voting records, and personal history were uploaded into his synthetic neural network. Ethan watched as his personal laptop streamed the data, meticulously compiled from weeks of research. When the upload was complete, he slipped the laptop into his briefcase, stood, and gave the order. AI, power up the Prime Minister of Britain. Mr. Blunt, please. Blunt's mood normal. The robot's eyes flickered to life, its joints humming as it straightened. Command, initiate phone conversation simulation with Mr. Blunt, his present mindset. Factor in budget concerns, Ethan instructed. Scenario. Ethan requests funding for QTube and other projects related to Mars Project. Factor in advice he has received from cabinet members. The robot's voice is activated smooth and eerily human, mimicking the tone and cadence of the real Prime Minister. A ringtone sounded, followed by the simulated click of a phone being answered. Good afternoon or morning in case you're in some other part of the globe, Ethan. How are you? the robot said, its tone warm and familiar. Ethan leaned forward. Very well, thank you, Prime Minister. Congratulations to you and your wife Mary on your recent election victory. Glad you won. Which you know is no secret, as I am a big fan of your green agenda. The robot's response was immediate, cutting through Ethan's rehearsed politeness. Thank you, Ethan, but I assume you're calling about additional funding for the QuantTube project. I'll be honest, we've run the numbers, and it's just not feasible at the moment or the foreseeable future. Ethan frowned. AI. Command. Restart phone simulation to blunt, please, he snapped. The simulated phone call reset. This time, Ethan altered his pitch. Congratulations, Prime Minister, on your victory. I won't take much of your time. I wanted to discuss a new factory project in the UK. It would create 1,000 highly paid jobs. The robot hesitated before responding, taken aback. I thought this scheduled call was about the QuantTube funding? That is what I have in my diary. No, not really. That is a minor part of the conversation I wish to discuss, Prime Minister, Ethan replied smoothly. But the factory is the cornerstone of what I am calling about. The Q-tube ties into it naturally. Job creation is the main reason. I am surprised your notes do not say that. And so it went an endless dance of negotiation, rebuttal, and recalibration. Each time the robot raised an objection, Ethan reset the scenario, refining his approach until the simulation ran flawlessly. By the end, he had rehearsed every angle, every counter-argument. When Ethan finally placed the real call later that day, the funding was secured. He hung up the phone with satisfaction, yet unease lingered in his chest. The QuantTube was only part of the problem. There were deeper concerns, questions that chewed at the edges of his mind. Ethan left his office, his footsteps echoing down the sterile corridors. He reached the command room once more, scanned his biometrics, and stepped inside. This time, the chair in the center didn't feel like a throne, it felt like a courtroom dock. Ethan's palms were damp, his throat was dry. He lowered himself into the seat and issued the order. Command. Activate all. Presidents, prime ministers, dictators, the lot, please. The 30 robots stirred to life in unison, their movements mechanical yet unnervingly human. Their eyes glowed faintly as they awaited his prompts. Command to all. Raise your hand for yes, remain still for no. Ethan's voice quivered slightly, betraying the rising tension within him. Question 1. Who here does not wish to see the QuantTube succeed? Honest opinions only. 10 robots raised their hands. Ethan swallowed hard, nodding to himself. Question 2. Honest opinions only once again, he continued, more quietly now. Who sees my Mars colony as a threat to their power or economy or ego? 6 hands rose. Ethan's breathing quickened. The final question loomed heavy, silent, inevitable. He licked his dry lips and whispered, Question 3. How many of you are prepared to assassinate me? The silence that followed was suffocating. Then, slowly, one by one, 3 robots raised their hands. Ethan's heart stuttered. He stared at them, his mind a storm of calculations and fear. He rose from the chair, his legs trembling, and left the room. As he walked down the sterile corridor, the echo of his footsteps seemed louder than before. For the first time, he felt a cold, unshakable certainty that he was no longer in control. Along with his thoughts, he wondered, is this how a death row prisoner feels? Chapter 16. First World to Third World Problems. New York, 2059. Daisy, early 20s and restless, stood in the sweltering airport beside her friend Lily, a fellow environmental science student. The terminal around them pulsed with life. Fragments of weary conversations, rumbling luggage wheels, and the steady hum of announcements echoed through the thick, humid air. They were bound for a remote island off India's coast, selected for an environmental research project. Once teeming with life, the island had become a battered relic, beaten down by climate change's relentless hand. Rising seas and ferocious storms had transformed it into a fading reminder of what it once was. The expedition thrilled them, a rare chance for hands-on climate work. Still, both young women felt a twinge of guilt. As Westerners, they carried the weight of their nation's inaction at critical moments to prevent climate damage. However, Daisy believed humanity as a whole was accountable. And though the trip had a serious mission, it was partly a holiday too. They'd packed accordingly. The island they'd soon study had once been home to an indigenous community, forced to flee as saltwater swallowed their ancestral lands. The Indian mainland was also suffering from severe droughts, unbearable heat waves, and forest fires, all of which were compounded by deadly water conflicts. Nature's wrath was escalating faster than experts could predict, making Daisy and Lily's mission feel urgent. Their project mixed science and rescue, building experimental flood defenses, cataloging fragile wildlife, and preserving what little biodiversity remained. Unlike most who reacted to climate news with sad emojis and despair, they were actively joining the fight. But as they steeled themselves for the journey, a crackling voice blared over the speakers. All flights were postponed until the following day. Thunderstorms and waterspouts, ocean-borne vortices spinning with frightening force, were barreling through the region. After collecting a hotel voucher, they boarded an autonomous shuttle pod that glided silently through the storm-lit streets. Their stopover destination, Last Renaissance, looked less grand than its name suggested. Faded paint and flickering neon signs made the hotel look as if it had weathered countless storms. Inside, the room smelled faintly of mildew, and a sputtering air conditioner strained in the corner, exhaling lukewarm air. Daisy turned to Lily with a grin. "All right, we can either spend the evening in here watching TV, listening to the air conditioner sputter, and eating overpriced room service junk, or we can go to a nice restaurant and hit a club. And before you start complaining about student grants, it's on me, the spoiled rich brat." Lily laughed, nudging her shoulder. "Well, when you put it that way, all right, rich girl, tonight's on you." They slipped into a bustling restaurant, savoring the soft ambience and exotic flavors before diving into the city's nightlife. Outside a nightclub, a towering robotic bouncer scanned them with cool, unblinking eyes, processing their IDs before waving them through. Behind him, a line of human bouncers stood watch, their steroid-enhanced physiques bulging beneath their suits. Daisy and Lily stayed until around 1, heading out as a drunken man argued with a robotic bouncer, his eyes wild and voice slurred. "I don't want to talk to you, you tin can, washing machine. I want a human doorman," he shouted, jabbing a finger at the robot's chest, his frustration raw and oddly personal. The robot responded calmly, "May I ask why, sir? I am fully capable of assisting with any inquiries or arranging a cab for you. You appear intoxicated, and your behavior poses a risk to yourself and others." The man swayed, glaring. "I want a human because you don't react. I like winding them up, having a good argument." He poked the robot again, his finger sinking against the cool, unyielding metal. Daisy and Lily watched with mild amusement before slipping away onto the warm, quiet street. The city was as calm as it ever got, with occasional electric cars whirring by. One of the club's human bouncers stood outside, wishing clubbers good night as they left, many staggering home or joining the growing taxi queue. "Need a cab, ladies? Wait time's about 15 minutes, he offered in a deep, friendly voice. Daisy glanced at Lily. It's only a 10-minute walk from here. What do you think?" "Not as safe as a cab," Lily shrugged, "but it's pretty safe around here." "No, we're good, Mr. Dorman, thank you." Daisy patted her bag, where her pepper spray was nestled. "We'll be fine." "Pepper spray," she said with a grin, and together they set off into the sleeping city, the night's energy fading into a quiet hum. They walked down the block and turned right, then left a few minutes later, stepping into an unusually quiet avenue. The street lay shrouded in shadows, poorly lit, each footfall echoing through the silence. Daisy's instincts flared, a primal warning throbbing beneath her skin. Something was wrong. A low, pleading voice drifted from further down the street, barely audible but growing louder as they neared a dark alley cluttered with garbage bins and rusted fire escapes. The voice called out again, "Help!" sharp against the stillness. Daisy shot a worried glance at Lily, her face shadowed with concern. Hesitating, they took a cautious step forward and peered into the narrow, moonlit alley. A figure hunched over a man, back arched like a predator over fresh prey. The victim lay sprawled, dressed for a night out, his clothes rumpled, his pockets being rifled through by the hooded figure who moved with brutal efficiency. Lily raised her phone, dialed emergency services, and shouted, "Stop! We're calling the police!" The figure froze, twisted in a crouch, his head turning slowly toward them. Shadows and his hood obscured his face, but the menace in his posture was unmistakable. He rose deliberately, stashed the stolen goods, and tossed the man's phone aside with a dismissive clatter. The silence thickened as he took a step toward them, posture predatory. "Run!" Daisy shouted, her voice tight with fear. "Split up! Head for the hotel, I'll go back to the club." She saw terror flash across Lily's face before her friend bolted. Daisy hesitated just long enough to confirm Lily had some distance. Lily was a Darwinian child, genetically natural. She couldn't run like Daisy, who'd had elite athletic DNA spliced into her helix before birth. It wasn't uncommon. Olympic athletes sometimes sold their genetic prowess to wealthy families. Daisy reached into her bag, fingers curling around her pepper spray, but then she changed tactics. She raised her hand instead, letting the gleam of her rings, a scattering of real gold and diamonds, catch the man's eye in the moonlight. "They're real," she taunted, her voice steady and defiant. "Worth a fortune." She flashed her rings one last time before turning and running, shoes kicked off, bare feet slapping the pavement. She knew she could likely outrun the mugger, even if he was young and athletic. She wanted to make sure he came after her, not Lily. The hooded figure's shadow stretched and darkened as he pursued her relentlessly. Glancing over her shoulder, she saw him gaining. His eyes were cold, emotionless. In the patchy light of street lamps and moon, she caught a glimpse of his face, dark-skinned, handsome, chiseled. He looked like someone from a magazine cover, not a back-alley predator. Her heart pounded, lungs burned. She'd taken a wrong turn. Ahead lay a dead end, closed shops, dark windows, no signs of life but dim apartment lights above. Would her cries penetrate the double-glazed windows and the drone of evening TV? She doubted it. Still, she screamed, "Help me!" Her voice cracked with panic, raw and desperate. With nowhere left to run, she spun to face him. He slowed, approaching with a measured calm, hand outstretched for her throat. Instinct took over. She grabbed his wrist, shifted her weight, and executed a judo throw she'd practiced for years. A perfect uchimata, enough to slam any normal man onto hard tarmac. But the sound was wrong. Not the soft thud of flesh, just a metallic clang that echoed sharply. Daisy froze, her pulse thundering in her ears. He began to rise, slowly and smoothly, like something rebooting. Her hands fumbled through her bag, trembling until they closed around the pepper spray. She pulled it free and stepped toward the mugger, unleashing the mist into his face. The cloud hung in the air, clinging to him, but he didn't flinch, didn't even blink. Instead, the droplets caught the light, revealing something beneath the shadows, two faint, unnatural glows radiating from his eyes. The empty can clattered to the pavement. He wasn't human. The truth hit her like a truck. The metallic clang, the eyes. He was a robot, and she was no match. Across the city, on the top floor of Dockside Warehouse 26, the world narrowed to the glow of computer screens. Dust motes floated lazily in a single shaft of light. 26-year-old Mikhail sat hunched at a makeshift desk, fingers white-knuckled on a joystick, a lopsided mic slipping from his headset. He looked like a gamer mid-match, but this wasn't a game. Mikhail's fingers twitched on the joystick. He'd been called weak once. Never again. Behind him stood Seb, one of his father's muscle-bound enforcers. Scarred knuckles, sharp eyes, a man shaped by violence. Seb chuckled, gravel-voiced. "Gotta hand it to her," he said, leaning over Mikhail's shoulder. "Girl's got guts, but don't rough her up. Let her hand it over." The screen flickered with static, but Daisy remained visible. She stood in a dim alley, back against graffiti-stained bricks. Mikhail's robot avatar had already risen after her throw. He watched her chest rise and fall, her eyes darting. No way out. Mikhail's voice crackled through the mic, cold, venomous. "All right, bitch. Hand it over." "Please," Daisy begged. "Take what you want. Just don't hurt me." Her hands shook as she passed over her bag. The robot moved with precision, unzipping its hoodie and stashing the handbag inside its metal torso, hidden by cloth. Next, she unclipped her necklace and offered it. Mikhail leaned closer, grinning. "The rings," he spat. "The ones you flashed earlier." Tears glinted in Daisy's eyes. She removed 2 rings slowly. The third was stuck. "It's stuck," she whispered. "Let me help," Mikhail said sweetly. The robot gripped her wrist. Its metal fingers yanked. A sickening snap echoed as the ring came free, along with the sound of bone breaking. Daisy's scream tore through the speakers, raw and gut-wrenching. It echoed through the warehouse. Seb recoiled, face twisting. He barked. "She's a woman. Have some honor. Your dad said, minimal violence, no cruelty. If he hears about this, you'll be the one explaining." He loomed, casting a long shadow over the desk. But Mikhail ignored him, savoring Daisy's tears as she cradled her broken hand. Through her pain, she heard arguing voices through the robot speaker. Another operator? A conscience, maybe. But she didn't have time to figure it out. Sirens screamed in the distance, drawing closer. Apartment windows opened above. Shouts rang down. People were watching. The robot's movements turned twitchy. It scanned for an escape. Mikhail's fingers flew across the controls. "Cops are coming," Seb said tightly. "You better move." Mikhail didn't answer. He leaned into the mic. His voice hissed with menace. "Don't tell them I'm a robot. I recorded your face. I'll find you if you do." He yanked the joystick. The robot bolted. It darted into a pool of light, then grabbed a drainpipe. In seconds, it scaled 6 stories, joints humming. It vaulted the rooftop ledge, disappearing above the CCTV grid. With inhuman agility, it leapt from rooftop to rooftop, a shadow melting into the city. Daisy's sobs below were swallowed by sirens.
Black keys and white lines, tracing out the heavy signs. Neon pulse in the dark, waiting for a lonely spark. Fingertips on the cold glass, watching every hour pass. The signal is fading low. Where did the rhythm go? I hear a hum in the wire, feeding the ghost in the fire.